Hello, everybody, and welcome into my latest live broadcast. It is Wednesday, the 31st of May, 2023. It is the last day of May. That means tomorrow is June. Look how smart I am. My name is CareyHolzman. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I have got so many videos to make right now. I'm so excited because I was getting a little concerned over the cost of materials. But the good news is I've reached out to a few companies. A few companies have reached out to me, and I've got a nice variety of content coming up from networking. We're going to revisit some networking stuff with regards to wireless as well as switches, and explain to you the benefits, the pros, the cons, the costs, and how you can save money, as well as I've got a couple more builds coming up. Today we're looking at the RAID controller. And oh my gosh, there's so many things. I can't even keep it all straight. So the good news is lots of variety here. Trying to focus on getting things done, trying to focus on the average individual, not so much the enthusiast, not so much the gamer. I kind of feel like the vast majority of computer users are using their computers. We're getting something done. It could be something as serious as paying bills. They're the average home user. Most people are paying their bills online. It could be something as a form of entertainment, whether it's just social media or online simple games, something to occupy their time, as well as the ability to connect the entire household up and stream movies, Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. More and more people are cutting the cord to cable, wanting to save money. They need to know how to get that bandwidth across their home, or maybe into the backyard, or into a house in the backyard, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to cover all of that for the next couple of months, I suspect, and still looking at the increase in performance of solid state drives and what little that actually means to most people. Going from generation 3 solid state drives to generation 4 and now generation 5 results in very diminishing returns, resulting in spending hundreds of dollars to get milliseconds back. And if you're somebody chasing milliseconds for whatever reason, you represent a very small amount of computer owners out there. So I'm not going to necessarily cater to the small audience. I want to cater to the majority. And for that reason, I want to discuss alternatives to Generation 5 or even Generation 4 solid state drives. For example, today I've got this Highpoint RAID controller card. We used to use RAID controllers quite a bit with hard drives because they're so slow. And back on the original Threadripper build a few years ago, I did a RAID 0 configuration with 3 Samsung 860 NVMe 500 gig drives. And the thing was a nightmare. It was a total nightmare. The speeds were essentially faster than what I'm getting out of Gen 5 SSD, but it was very unreliable and very difficult to, well, I'll tell you what my mistake was, and I knew better, but I knew better from hard drive days. I thought maybe NVMe SSD days made this better. But you don't want to boot from a RAID array. You want your RAID array to be a D drive, an E drive, an F drive, right? You want that to be internal, either that or put it out on your NAS. So if you have a NAS, you're going to be limited in performance to your network connection. And that's why we're going to talk more about network connections. Once again, 2.5 gig versus 1 gig. The 1 gig stuff, super inexpensive. It's pennies on the dollar. 2.5 gig, you're going to spend 10 times as much to go 1.5 times faster. And that's only for wired connections. It won't help your Wi-Fi at all. So a lot of people will not benefit from that. Plus, you've got 5 gig and 10 gig beyond that. And again, the amount of benefit that you get from that starts to become a specialty. It starts to become a very special needs type situation where you represent the people are out there that need this. Don't misunderstand me, but they're few and far between. You know, if you compare the number of 1 gigabit switches, network switches that are in place around the world, they outnumber probably several 100,000 to 1 anything beyond that, from 2.5 gig to 10 gig. Unless we're talking about corporate America, we're talking about server farms and things like that where there's high amounts of input and output going on 24/7 nonstop. That's brutal. So sites like Amazon and Google, even here on YouTube, they need to just slam bandwidth out. But we're not making videos for those guys. You understand? So what's the point? Thank you to Buster. Our friend Peter Laycock contributes 10 pounds. He says, good evening, Carey and Marlena and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh is 54 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 12 degrees Celsius. I'm happy to report we've had a little bit of a cool down here. We're in the 80s today. It feels pretty good today. And I think we're good for the rest of the week. And then Saturday, we go back up again. I know summer's coming, and it's going to be miserable. Thank you, Buster. Cheers, my friend. Thank you for the update on your brother as well. Ben Laird also joining us from Scotland. 5 pounds contributed in Super Chat. There's our Scottish friends. I see Mark Gaines, our Northern Ireland friend. Look at this. We've got the UK in the house. And of course, we can't forget Alaj Tepej and Luke Greenia. Luke joins us from Vermont. There's Patrick Rousseau joining us from New York, is it? Syracuse, New York. Here's the thing, guys. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. When it comes time for me to hand out some of these mini PCs, and that day is going to be coming, and in exchange, what I'm going to ask for in return is that I get periodic updates from people about how it's going. If you had any problems, has it been good, right? And people say, hey, would you pick me or would you pick me? Some of these people I've never seen before. If you want to know your likelihood of getting picked to do like follow-up reviews for me, be a regular in the chat room so that you're going to be in there anyway. And then when I see you, I can say, oh, hey, by the way, how's the such and such PC running? Right? Because if you're somebody who just comes in and says, give me the free PC and you leave, there's no benefit to me or to the rest of the audience for that. Now, we do have the giveaway PCs that are coming up. Those are the HP mini PCs. And I don't need reviews on those. Those are just to give away to people in need that will benefit them. So different kinds of giveaways for different kinds of purposes. So if you want to increase your odds of, and that's something you want to participate in as part of the community, then be a part of the community so I can know that you come in regularly. You're not just here for a free computer. And that while you're here from time to time, not every time, but once in a while, you give us a little update on how that mini PC is working. That's all you have to do. So start getting involved and joining in on these live videos. I know YouTube doesn't make it easy to know if the videos are live or not. So if you're watching this video and it is after the 31st of May, you've missed the live video. Right now it's a little after 1:00 p.m. Pacific time, which is about a little after 4 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. And I would even extend this offer out to some people in other countries if they've been members a long time and they want to give us feedback on the reviews. I'm talking like Mats Olof Rickardsson in Sweden. I'm talking about Oystein in Norway. I'm talking about Peter Laycock and Mark Gaines in the UK. So I want to start expanding this, and I want to make sure that I'm binding this community together with people who are really a part of it. They're here for the right reason. And I don't want to just be the only one doing the reviews. I'd love to hear from you guys on what you think of it. So please, if you haven't, start getting involved in the community. Get to be a familiar name. When I start knowing where you're from, that's a good sign. Martin Hogg, here's another generous contributor, joins us also from Scotland. Another Scotland viewer with £4.99 contributed in Super Chat. Hello, Carey, and many thanks from Ayr in Scotland, 15 degrees centigrade. Right on. Thank you, Martin. Cheers, my friend. Now, I do want to say contributions, financial contributions, they're not a factor in whether or not you would get a free PC in exchange for review. That's nothing to do with it. What it has to do with is whether or not I'm recognizing you. The only way I'm going to recognize you is through your repetition of being here. I'm going to reward that. And if you're a contributor or a member of the channel, I'm going to reward that even more. Coming up, I'm working on a little project here. Let me get your feedback on it. started talking to you about the dangers of buying cheap computer equipment, whether it's these really cheap mini PCs that are sketchy, or it's cheap networking equipment, or, and I'm going to talk more about that in another video, that there's a danger that comes along with buying the cheap stuff. And the danger could be fire hazard, or the danger could be frustration and anger at the technology because you couldn't justify spending a few dollars more. Now, let me put you into my perspective as a business owner. And this is a real scenario that had occurred many, many times when I first started. Customer says, I need to solve this problem, whatever it is. Customer says, I want to run, oh, here's a true story. Customer starts his own business and has got like a little building behind his house. And the business has 3 employees, him, his wife, and 1 employee. Says, we need 3 computers. I say, do you want Windows Home or do you want Windows Pro? What's the price difference? Well, back then, you know, Windows Home was $99. Windows Pro was I want to say it was $150. I think it was $150. And he said, what's the difference? And I said, well, unless you're logging into a server, you know, your small business, you know, what's a server? Well, server would be, let's say you had, I don't know, more than a dozen employees. And this is before we were using NAS boxes, right? We're going way back now into the late 90s, early 2000s. So, you know, he's just started the business. He doesn't have a lot of money. He's trying to keep his expenses down. Windows 10 Home it is. So I install Windows 10 Home. And now his business is growing. And now he's got 6 or 7 employees within 2 or 3 months. Seems like it was pretty quick. And he needs 2 or 3 more computers. Windows 10 Home, yeah, let's keep going. We keep going. Another 2 or 3 months, he's now at like 13 employees. And now he's getting a server. Person, I say, I don't sell servers. I can't help you with that. So he calls a company to do the servers. And they say, your Windows 10 Home computers will not connect to the server. You need Windows 10 Home. Well, now he's calling me up to chew me out for selling him Windows 10 Home when it was his choice. So, you know, I want to make right by this guy. So I tell him, I go, look, there's no real simple upgrade path from Windows XP Home to Windows XP Pro. Well, how much is that going to cost? Well, you're basically going to have to buy the whole version. So like $160 per box. Now he's got 12, 13 boxes. That's going to set him back about $2,000, not to mention the labor. He's not too happy about that. So I said, well, you know, if I would have known you were going to grow this fast, I would have never recommended Windows 10 Home. This is crazy. I've never seen a business grow like this. So he says, I want to run some network cables. Now he's running out of networking in his little building. He says, what would you charge me to do that? And I said, well, we have to trench. He's like, no, I'm not trenching. I just want to run the cable outside from one building to the other. I said, you're going to need some special outdoor cable for that. He goes, what would you charge me? So I work up a quote and I send it to him, and he says, that's too much. I mean, the guy's making money now, crazy, right? I said, well, I mean, you could do it yourself. It's not real hard. And he says, can I borrow your crimping tool? I have a crimping tool. Really nice one, by the way. Those were hard to find back in the 90s. So $100 and something tool. And I hadn't been using it very much. And I said, sure, you can borrow it. So I loan it to him. He goes and gets the cable. He does everything himself. And I don't hear from him for like 8 weeks. I said, hey, man, are you done with my crimping tool? Because I need it back. You know, that's how I make my living. He says, I've misplaced it. I can't find it. You've got to be kidding me. You know, I do this for a living. He says, I'll buy you another one. So I don't know where to get another one. I got that at a specialty store that I don't even know if they're still around, a place that was called Gray Bar. Some of you may be familiar with Gray Bar. It's not convenient. It's not easy. It's a long drive away to get it. This is before Amazon and all this other stuff. Amazon was selling books back then, you know. So I said, please look for it. I really need it. You know, this is what I do for a living. I don't mind loaning it to you, but I need it back. So he ends up calling me, I don't know, about a week or two later. He says he found it. I said, great, I'm going to come by and pick it up right now. I get in my car, I drive to his place. He shows me the work he did and everything that's going on. And now it's out of my hands. He's grown so fast. He's got servers. He's got all this networking stuff going on. And I said, man, I'm really happy for you. I'm really glad your business is doing well. And he goes, well, thanks for loaning me your tool. Here's something for your trouble. And he hands me $20. Okay, man, thanks. So never seen or talked to that guy ever again. What's funny is I have a friend of mine who I very rarely talk to who said, you know, I owe you so much. And I said, what do you owe me for? He goes, that guy you recommended to me is almost paid for my house. And it's the same guy. I said, I recommended that guy to you? He goes, yeah, I needed custom database programming. I guess you don't remember, but I've been working for him for years now. I go, I never made anything from that guy. Like, I lost money from that guy. He goes, oh no, man, I owe you for that. That guy has been my single biggest client for the last few years, and I can't thank you enough for referring him to me. Wow. So you can see that's on my end. The fact that I didn't make any money was my fault. The fact that I allowed him to make cheaper choices was something I should not have done. And if I could do it all over again, I would have done it differently. And when clients buy cheap motherboards or cheap computers and they buy them from me, it makes it look like I'm the one who sold them the junk. I'm the one at fault. You know, initially it's all about the price, but they soon forget about the price the minute they start having problems. So the reason I bring all this up is I talked about how a lot of technology today is disposable, it's consumable. Not all technology, but it's important to tell the difference between the two. And the example I like to give is a Bic lighter versus a Zippo lighter. And I found myself using this example more and more and realized I don't own a Zippo lighter. I have a lot of Bic lighters. And I thought, you know, growing up, I saw a lot of Zippo lighters in my family and such, where people were smokers. And I could use a lighter to light candles and incense, to light the barbecue grill. So I go on eBay, and they have Zippo lighters that have been around more than 90 years that still function perfectly well today. And while I was looking, I found this. I'm going somewhere with this. Stay with the story here. We're getting there. This is a slim Zippo lighter from 1969 from a company called Univac. $25. $25. And look, it's 54 years old and it still works perfectly. Now, $25 can buy you a lot of disposable lighters, but this one can get passed on from generation to generation. And while people don't smoke much these days, it's just convenient to have a lighter. And I got to tell you, the smell of that Zippo lighter fuel, I don't know what it is about that smell. There's something that just makes me smile. Maybe I'm getting a buzz from it. So then I had this idea. Instead of selling like merch of coffee mugs and t-shirts, what if, because these things are cheap, they're bulletproof, you can rebuild these. You can put new flint, new springs, new rayon. You can rebuild these things. It's all just one piece. And they even have inserts. You can go on eBay and you can buy inserts that turn this into a jet lighter, or turn it into a propane lighter, or turn it into an electric arc lighter. You just slide it into your case and you're converted. And the electric arc lighters are cool because you plug them into the USB cable and they charge up. And then they have two little arcs and you can use that to light cigarettes or incense. You're not going to get a flame that extends out of it. Then they have windproof flames as well. And because the Zippos really haven't changed much in design over the years, I thought, what if we make a short run of Zippo lighters that could ship worldwide, with my logo on it. And that's something you could have for years and years and years and years, and it would never break. Just as an example of a reminder, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get something quality. But at the same time, when you are spending pennies, expect it to be disposable. Don't expect it to last a long time. You know, I thought I was being clever a few months back because I saw these, they have these little, where did I put it? In this drawer somewhere. Should have prepared better. Ah, here it is. They have these little disposable, non-refillable thick lighters. They're very inexpensive and they're cheap. But then I saw they sell on Amazon what appears to be almost like a Zippo housing, and you can slide your standard little Bic lighter in it. I suppose I need to put it in the right direction. And now you have what appears to be a very standard lighter, except when the fuel runs out, you throw this out and you buy another one and pop it in there. And I thought I was being clever. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, that's still just a Bic lighter. You know, it's going to run out of fuel and it's going to have to get thrown away. And then if they stop making them in this size, there's no refilling them. So I'm stuck with a holder that I can't use. The Zippo lighter, I'll have that for the rest of my life. So tell me what you think of this idea of making a Zippo lighter. I'll have the circle logo, the powers in your hands. We'll put them up at CareyHolzman.com, CareyHolzman.shop. I'd be curious how many of you would be interested in that, because the content creators today, mostly younger people that would say, oh, lighters, that's, who uses a lighter today? You know what I mean? Like a younger person probably doesn't think about any use for that. And since we have a more mature crowd here, generally speaking, there's a nostalgia factor to it, there's a lasting factor, and there's the reminder to buy something quality that'll last you a lifetime versus buying the cheapest thing that keeps breaking, or in the case of computers, crashing, that you have to keep massaging and nursing endlessly, tirelessly, to no end until it's replaced. Stuff like that can drive a business like mine out of business when customers want that cheapest price, but then they want that customer service and they want that quality. And then you get to a point where you're like, no, the customer's not always right. I'm not going to sell you something that I know is going to lead to ruining my reputation and resulting in a lot of warranty support calls that you're going to expect me to cover at no cost. No, why should I have to pay for you to save money? That's no way to run a business. But I can charge a fair price, actually a really good price, for a high quality item. Ask anybody who's ever bought a computer from me that I have hand built. How often have they ever come back for repairs? It's pretty rare. Speaking of repairs, I do have a repair coming in. For those of you who want to see more repair videos, that will be coming in maybe tomorrow. And we'll take a look at it. This is a computer they built themselves, and now it's no longer booting, and a fan doesn't work, and we're going to diagnose it, see what's going on, and get it fixed for them. So I hope you'll join me for that upcoming video. Davis Parsons with a $50 super chat. Right on, Davis. Thank you. Davis has also been a member here in our tech club for 12 months. Thank you so much, Davis. He says, here's my late fee for missing the previous 2 videos. Well, it's silly you guys do that, but thank you so much for supporting the channel. Last night I went on Amazon and I saw a mini PC that's only a Ryzen 3 2-core 4-thread mini PC from a company I've never heard of before. And I'm going to review that and add it to the catalog of mini PCs. Very cheap. It was only $139, I think. And using your Amazon gift card money, I essentially only had to pay like 40 bucks. And that will be one that gets given away. It'd be great for a home theater PC or basic web surfing, or maybe giving something to your kids or your parents. So we're going to talk more about that. That's coming up. I should have that computer tomorrow, but I probably won't get to the review till next week. So more things in the works, but that's where your money's going. It's all going to Amazon so I can get more stuff. And then what happens when I get more stuff is I start getting boxed in over here and I have to get rid of it. And I could do like Jay's 2 cents and have a garage sale and have people go through stuff. Wouldn't it have been right for him to maybe just give that stuff away to his best viewers? I think that would have been the right thing to do. But it's his business. I don't want to sell the stuff. I want to give it to my most loyal viewers. And furthermore, I want to hear back from you guys about how it's lasting so I can get an idea of these brands. Are they junk? And, you know, I got news for you. If it turns out to be a piece of junk and you like email me or you follow up in chat and you're like, hey, you know, that mini PC you sent, it's completely dead now 3 months later, whatever. Well, that means it's time for you to get another mini PC to review, doesn't it? So I'll probably end up doing something like that, especially when people continue to give me feedback over the course of ownership, that if they run into a problem with it and it's, you know, something that's no longer meeting their needs, or or the thing just dies, obviously we're going to try and get a warranty. What's that like? We'll go through that experience. Worst case scenario, let's get you another one. So it's not just like a one-off thing. I'd love for the community to really be a part of this in a way that the reviews I'm offering aren't just coming from me, they're coming from you guys as well. But you guys don't have to be on camera. You can just type in the chat or send me an email, give me an update. Who else is doing that on YouTube? Like in any category. So we're doing it, and we're going to start doing it very soon. Because if I don't, I'm going to be buried in mini PCs, and all you're going to see is just the top of my head. Enberdim says it's not that Zippo lighters still function, it's that Zippo will service them. You don't know what there is to service on a Zippo lighter, to be honest. You buy the kits with the wicks, you buy the kits with the flints. If you go on eBay and there's a non-working Zippo lighter, I can't imagine it would be that hard to just get some pieces of rayon that go inside. All those little pieces, they're all pretty universal and functional amongst all the Zippo lighters. And I suppose if it was beyond your ability to fix, and by the way, lots of YouTube videos do a complete breakdown and refurbishment of Zippo lighters and show you how the flint goes in, how the rayon goes in, how to adjust your wick, how to wind your wick back and forth, how to fuel it without overfueling it, overfilling it. All that stuff is on YouTube now. And if it's still beyond you, there are folks online that do repairs. You could mail it to them and have them repair the lighter, and you can always read their Yelp reviews and make sure that they're a legitimate company. But I don't think I've ever seen a Zippo lighter that needed repair that I couldn't fix, but never really had that many. I haven't seen a bad Zippo lighter except for ones that ran out of fuel, at least growing up. In the last 20 years, maybe the last 30 years, I haven't seen these. So it's not like I have any recent experience, but a quick look on eBay for Zippo lighters. We did buy one just for fun here. These become collector's items. And we're going to get to the RAID stuff here in a minute. But I saw this, and I'm not planning to ever strike it, but it's a gamer theme, and it reminds me of Galaga. These are, you know, 25 bucks all day long. It's not like it's a major expense. It's fun. And if you look at some of the classic Zippos, like if you look for Zippos from Intel, Oracle, 3Com, Boeing, NASA, some of these can go for anywhere from $250 to $500 because of what's etched on it. I've even seen one that says AMD on it. That's pretty new. And that one was like $90, which is ridiculous. So I keep an eye out. These are brand new, these the gaming themed ones, but there are some that have come out in years past. And I would love to find a few from like Fairchild Semiconductor or Atari, you know, companies that mean something to me. I found a classic 50-year anniversary Coca-Cola one that was like 50 bucks or something, but like, nah. The UNIVAC one was cool. If they had one for the ENIAC, that would be really cool. Or if they had one for a Cray supercomputer, that would be cool. Or MIT, or even Arizona State University. But when I looked on eBay, and there's thousands of these on eBay, I didn't find anything. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. It just stuff comes and goes every day on eBay. So just a fun little thing. So what we're talking, and remember, this is 1969. I was born in 68. This is almost as old as me. $25. Not the best investment you can make for resale value, but definitely if you want something that'll last and you never have to replace it. Okay. And Burden says it works or we fix it for free. Zippo has an official lifetime warranty. Hey, that's cool. Mats Olaf says, Carey, I threw away my lighter 30 years ago. Hey, if you were smoking and that's a way to keep you from smoking, all the power to you. Some things are far more important. I don't smoke. I don't use these for smoking. Again, incense, candles, starting the barbecue grill, fireplaces, things like that. And it's just, it's nostalgic for me because adults, when I was a child, smoked in the 70s and everybody had these things. Scott says, I love Zippo lighters. All I used when I smoked, I have 100 plus of them in a collection, lifetime warranties. I'd love one with a CareyHolzman logo. So the idea is that I'm going to see what the bulk price is. They're usually around $40 cost, but I'll find out what they are if we get like 40 or 50 of them, because that's going to set me back probably around $2,000. And then I can provide them to my sister and she can put them on the website and mail them out. And they should be able to ship internationally. And if we sell out of them, we'll do another run, but I just don't know. It's such an unusual thing. I think 50 is probably going to last me a couple of years before we sell out of them. But if I'm wrong, we'll keep the design and we'll order again. So appreciate the feedback. And if you have other ideas for things you think would make unique merch, let me know. I'm interested in anything other than mugs and t-shirts and clocks and all that standard crap. I want something unique to my channel, unique to any channel. I was looking into like screwdrivers and other tools, but quite frankly, it's too big of a mess for me to get into manufacturing like that. But other ideas, original ideas, send them my way. Ron, my friend, says, do it, I'll buy it. Right on. John Williams says, that'd be great. I've got one in my desk that's 50 years old. I don't smoke anymore. Starshine says, I've got one from 1992. Quadfeed says, I'd love it if you included ATTO with the SSD benchmarks. Yeah, I've got that. I've got a version of it. I don't know how old the version is on my utilities flash drive, but we can certainly do that. Nick Poverman said, my dad used to work for Univac. He used to set up their systems back in the 1950s. He knew John Mauchley. He was the founder of Univac. Hey, that's cool. And Garfield says he decided to go with an HDMI port on his monitor instead of that VGA cable. I think that was a wise choice. Ron says his transforming TV stand came in and we're finishing construction today. Oh, you'll have to send me a picture when it's all set up and running. Marsman says he's checking in from Coleman, Wisconsin. It's 92 degrees. Nice weather, but thunder in the west. It's hotter in Wisconsin than it is in Phoenix today. Where are we at, temperature-wise? 88. 88 degrees. Hey, a shout out and a thank you to Gary Tatum, who sends $20 via PayPal. He says, I just wanted to send some support. Hey, that's awesome. Thank you so much. Amazon is loving us. Hey, camera girl. A Zippo with your logo is $37.90 on their site. Yeah, I got to look into it. Because there is a site where they do these, and I think they're $39. So I don't know if you're looking at a different. Do me a favor, Luke. Put the link in the chat, and I'll have Camera Girl do this for me. I like to keep her busy, and she likes doing this stuff. Shamim says, hello, Carey. I missed the live shows recently, but I watch them later. Thanks for your great videos and knowledge and sharing. Greetings from Sweden. Ah, Shamim is in Sweden as well. Right on. Hey, Shamim, welcome in. Where one said he was born in 1969. Mats Olof says, what, 1993? Mark Gain says, I have my grandfather's Zippo lighter. He had it when he was in World War II. He left it to me when he passed away. How cool is that? Come on, man. Patrick says, I was born in 1970. I'm 2 years behind you, Uncle Carey. I don't like being the older one. I want to be the younger one. Darn it. Okay, maybe I'll get some work done. Got the monologue out of the way. Got you up to date with the news items. Well, if you want to follow up on the most current tech news items, follow me on Twitter. I'm posting stories from numerous reputable websites on tech that I don't talk about here because I don't have time. Follow me on Twitter, the CareyHolzman. You can friend me on Facebook, although I just pretty much post links to the videos in both places in case you're not getting notifications. That is another way that you can be notified when I go live. Just don't know where Camera Girl went. Am I going to use Camera Girl today? Camera Girl, you want to do some close-ups? I'm ready when you are. Here's what I was thinking I was going to do today. This Highpoint RAID controller is bootable, but like I said, if you're booting from a RAID controller, you're going to go down a path that is going to lead to a lot of frustration, I predict. So my goal is to use this as a D drive, to use it as a place for content creation, for video storage. Now, this Highpoint RAID controller will take up to 4 M.2 drives, and they can be Gen 3 or Gen 4. Now, those Gen 4 Benjang SSDs that I tested yesterday, they run at 7,300 megabytes per second. And they're about $80 or $90 for 2 terabytes. These are TEAMGROUP Gen 3 4 terabyte drives. And these are going to run about 3,400, 3,500 megabytes per second, about half the speed of Gen 4. But these are only $197 for 4 terabytes. And since this can hold 4 of them, 200, 400, 600, 800 gets me 4, 8, 12, 16 terabytes because we're going to do a RAID 0. These are, look, you can use this as a RAID 5, you can use this as a RAID 1. In my personal opinion, these are really to be for high performance internal storage that gets backed up. So RAID 1 and RAID 5 are not necessary. I think, in my perspective as a content creator, I want a massive amount of storage that's very fast. And Gen 5 SSDs at 4 terabytes is what, $600? No, 2 terabyte, 5th gen SSD, the latest one that just came out from Crucial, it's over $650 for just one of those. So here's what I'm thinking I'll do today. We'll start by putting just 2 drives in this, configure them at RAID 0. We're going to use this box, this machine right here, as our temporary test bench. And my goal is to move it into the other box that has the Gen 5 that's in the other room. But for today, we'll just use this test bench, or we'll use this as our test bench. We'll see what 2 Gen 3 4 terabyte drives in RAID 0, how they perform. Then we're going to try 3, and then we're going to try 4. What happens with M.2 drives is once you go beyond 3, your latency starts to go up and your performance starts to go down, at least with an onboard controller. How's that going to work with the RAID controller, hardware controller? I want to find out. And then I've got a couple of those Benjang SSDs. I have 3 of those left over. And I suppose if I was desperate, I could pull the one out of here and have 4. But I suspect the 4th one is going to create very little difference in performance because we're reaching a point now where the data paths are getting saturated on a consumer board. We'd have to go into workstations. But I'm predicting all this, and I could be completely wrong. That's why I want to do this on video and find out. But my goal is RAID 0 using 2 drives, 3 drives, and 4 drives, test them with Gen 3, and same again with Gen 4. If Gen 3 slows down with 4 drives or the performance increase is so tiny it's not worth it, then I'm not going to go through the trouble of removing a 4th TEAMGROUP drive. Instead, I'll use the 2 that I have and then the 3rd one and do the same test to see if going to Gen 4 is even worth it. But keeping in mind, the TEAMGROUP drives are only 2 terabytes each. So by putting in 2 of those, I'll only have the equivalent of 1 of these. But it'll run, in theory, at the speed of 2 of these, but for the price of 1 of these, but half the space. So the faster you want to go, the more you've got to spend. And this does support Gen 3 and Gen 4. We're going to start with Gen 3. Okay. Are you ready? All right. I'm going to switch over to close-up camera. Come on over. There she is. So that's the board from yesterday. The cases literally came in 10 minutes before we got ready to stream today. I've got a black case and a white case. We're building 2 of these systems identical. And my goal is that the RAID card that we have here will not go in this system over here. It's going to go in the system Camera Girl's using to do the thumbnails. And by the way, awesome. She did a great job on today's thumbnail as always. All right, let's take a look. First of all, the Highpoint controller. I will tell you, when you get to this level of tech stuff, you don't usually get much in the way of documentation. It's been a long time since I've used a RAID controller. We do get a little booklet, and that's all she wrote. You get no cables, you get no other materials. This box is otherwise completely empty. Now, there is a price to be paid for this, okay? So if I very quickly jump over here to Amazon, and I have the links in Amazon, if you want, you can just take a break for just a second because I want to, here we go. Yeah, you're free. You're clear. This is the Highpoint RAID controller we're using today. You'll see supports Gen 3 and Gen 4. $692.99 is not exactly cheap. And then this is the close-ups of what it looks like. And it's only got 7 reviews, so clearly not many people are buying these. Why is there a video link on Amazon that looks just like my... That's not our thumbnail, is it? No. Boy, that looks a lot like the thumbnail you made. Come look at that. Doesn't that look like something you made? All right, I guess I'm...
Didn't do that.
All right, that's theirs. So, only 3 stars here. One of the problems you're going to see at equipment at this level are people that don't know what they're doing, or they're trying to do something, I don't know, maybe in Linux or something, but it says it's truly platform independent, PCIe 4.0 by 16 slot for M.2, up to 32 terabyte capacity. That would be 4 8 terabyte drives, which is the biggest capacity of consumer NVMe you could buy, 8, 16, 24, 32. And the cheapest of those are $800 a piece. So if we wanted 32 terabytes, we'd spend $3,200 plus $700 for the drive. That's actually, for 32 terabytes of NVMe super fast storage, is pretty decent price. That's a lot of storage. It's got a fan on it, and it's bootables RAID 1, RAID 0, RAID 1, 0. No RAID 5? Interesting. We're not going to make it bootable. The drives we're using first are the TEAMGROUP MP34. They're 4 terabyte Gen 3 drives. 4 terabytes, 5-year warranty, $197.99. I also want to remind you of my Amazon store. Let's jump over there real quick because I just added some deals that are super crazy deals. And I'm not getting paid to show you this, but I just want you to know, since we're talking about this stuff, we go over here to Deals Now. I update this almost every day, and I take things off and put stuff on. Here's a 500 gig Crucial P3 for $26.99. These look like they sold out already. Here's a 1 terabyte TEAMGROUP for $37, which I thought was a good deal. It's only $12. It's only $10 more to go from 500 gig to 1 terabyte. Except that's Gen 4, and this is, I believe, Gen 3. There's the 4 terabyte drive we're using today. There's the Fangjing. This was $80. The price has been going up a little bit. Watch these prices. They will fluctuate, not only daily, sometimes within the same day. Here's an HP branded NVMe Gen 4 drive that's 4 terabytes for $250. So that's a little over $50 more than the TEAMGROUP 4 terabyte, but this is Gen 4, that's Gen 3. So $50 to go to Gen 4 might be worth it for that extra performance. This is a 4 terabyte, 2.5-inch SATA drive for only $177. Is that crazy? My SanDisk 1 terabyte Extreme Flow flash drives were like $200. For whatever reason, they've been on sale for $117. That's 1 terabyte of super small flash storage you stick in your pocket. Looks like any other flash drive. This is my favorite flash drive on the market. I own like a dozen of them. I've probably given away half a dozen of them to friends. PNY has a 1 terabyte Gen 3 drive for $36. How about a 512 gig for $22.99? I mean, this is insane. Here's the Crucial P3 at $24.99. Is that in there twice? Crucial P3 Plus is $3 more, whatever the difference is. AData has their 2 terabyte drive. That's Gen 4, 2 terabytes, $88.99. Boy, that's getting right along that Fangjing price range right there. That's a very interesting deal. A lot of these prices are very temporary, so they could sell out or the price could go up by the time you watch this video in the future. Silicon Power also makes a 2 terabyte drive that also has DRAM on it. It's NVMe, $80, 2 terabytes. I think that's Gen 3, but I'd have to look at the specs. If you want 2 terabytes of super fast external SSD storage, you can't beat $140 on this ruggedized Samsung T7. Not as convenient as the flash drive, but much, much faster. This memory, I talked about this, it's $100 all day for 64 gigs, which is crazy. Only $58.99 now to bump your system up to 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 speed. What are you waiting on? Here's a PNY 500 gig drive, $25. Another Samsung T7 Shield in a different color. Look at this. Remember the Samsung 970 EVO Plus? Do you have any idea how many of these you guys have purchased? And they were a great deal when they were $199. And they were a great deal when they were $149 and then $139. Right now, $112 for the Samsung Gen 3, which was sort of the best of the Gen 3 drives in my opinion. Just $113? No heatsink needed. So I just wanted to make you guys aware. Also, that T7 Shield comes in a 4 terabyte size for $220. Look, if you bought the Team branded NVMe and put it in an enclosure, it would cost you more than this. And this is already made for you. So if you need a big external backup drive, 4 terabytes at $220, I don't know what's going on with RAM and storage prices, but be sure and check out the Deals Now page daily as I add and remove things. And if you find anything on sale that you think belongs on here from Amazon, let me know and I'll add it to the list. I do my best to stay on top of that. I've also seen the Scythe Mugen 5s have recently dropped. They were $65.99. Oh, are they back to $65? Looks like they're back again. These do drop to $59.99, which is why it was added to my Deals Now, but it looks like it's time to take it down because that's regular price for the Black Edition. So anyway, just want to make you guys aware of that stuff. If you buy anything from my Amazon store or using my Amazon link in the video description below this video, I do make a small commission, and those add up. I want you to know anything you purchase using my Amazon link. In other words, you click on my link, it takes you to Amazon, and then you're like, I'm not going to buy that, but I do want to buy some toilet paper. So while you're at Amazon, you buy other stuff. Because my link took you to Amazon, I make a small commission. I don't know who you are or where you're from. You don't pay any more. Nothing's any different from your perspective. All I can see is what was purchased and when, and how much commission that sale earned me, so I know how much Amazon owes me at the end of the month. That's how that works. So it's a nice anonymous way to support the channel and save some money, and I'm doing my best. If I find deals, I'm putting them up there, but you have to check it every single day. Some of these deals are lightning deals, and they're only up for a couple hours. Bikeman wants to know, would it affect my electric bill much if tomorrow I wanted to use a secondary gaming laptop a bit during evening hours? I have desktop to do some. I don't know. I don't know what your kilowatt hour costs are or where you live, or how much power your gaming laptop would take, but you can get one of those kilowatt meters. They sell them here on Amazon. Speaking of Amazon, you type in Amazon search, we'll type in kilowatt. And these devices, like here's a super cheap one, 13 bucks. And it'll show you how much power you're pulling from the wall, how much wattage. And then you can look up how much is your electricity per kilowatt hour, and then you could calculate that out to determine how much it's costing you to run your laptop. So they have some fancier ones here. I use the actual kilowatt one, which is like 35 bucks. But these knockoffs, they're all doing the same job here, so I don't see any problem with using the knockoff. They're very handy little devices. Okay. Some questions I just don't know how to answer because of your region and what kind of laptop and what kind of power you're pulling. So Scott says, I use your page as my start page for Amazon. Hey, thank you for that, Scott. Okay, camera girl, ready to get back to work? I lost her again. Camera girl. All right. We're almost an hour in, and I haven't even begun this test yet. You guys need to be used to that by now. We're hanging out together. It's
Working on your logo.
Oh, for the lighter?
Yeah.
Right on. It's gonna cost me extra?
Yeah.
Put it on my tab. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, come on over. All right, and then I want to go back over to the chat room just to keep an eye on it, even though I've got it over here too. There you are. Okay, here we go. It's not wanting to come out of the bag. Okay, there's not a whole lot to look at here. And on the back, you can see the standoffs for the different size NVMe drives. I always use the 2280s. 22 is the width. All NVMe drives are 22 millimeters wide. And then the 80, it refers to the millimeters in length. We have multiple different lengths. And then we're obviously looking at the back of it. They go on the other side. But I'm looking to see how the heat sink comes off here. So it looks like we have to remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. Diesel Doctor jumps in the chat, says hello. Welcome in, Diesel Doctor. Now, again, I'm not reading any directions on this. It's been a long time since I set up a RAID controller. But it's like riding a bicycle, I think. It does get complicated if you want to boot to it, and it can create nightmares anytime you have like an unexpected power outage or your computer shuts down unexpectedly. It can cause a system corruption, and then your system won't boot anymore without a special rescue disk that has the RAID drivers on it. It's a royal pain in the butt. So as long as you always use this as your storage drive, you know, as a D and E and F, anything other than C, then if any corruption happens to it, you just load any sort of software or utilities you need to then work on the drive from your computer without having to remove it or come up with another boot idea. Smarter way to work. All right, so there's the 6 screws, and then in theory, it should just come off of there. Ooh, what do we have going on here? Aha! There's a power cable right here that's going over to the board. We've got a Broadcom controller right there. And of course, we talked about how usually with SSDs, you do not get the little M.2 screws because sometimes they need standoffs. Sometimes the screws are wider, sometimes they're longer. So these come with the M.2 screws. And then you have your 2240 position, what is it, 2242, 2260, 2280, and their default is 2280. And there are ones that are 22100 that I guess you could put all the way in the back here. But I've never seen one of those in my life. So we've got port 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that driver is too big. We're going to start with ports 1 and 2. Actually, we could put all 4 drives in and only use 2 of them. Maybe I'll do that, and then I don't have to keep taking it apart. When we set up our RAID array, we should be able to say we only want to use drives 1 and 2. Ah, heck, you know what? I'm going to keep everything simple because I haven't done this in a long time, and I want to give myself fewer opportunities to screw it up. Now there is a big thermal pad. Now you're going to notice we have a thermal pad here for the controller, right down there. And we have a big thermal pad here for the NVMe drives. It says remove the cover before use. See that? We also have a project coming up for Camera Girl where we're going to use her corporate expertise and have her show us how to set up a Cisco managed.
3750.
Say it again.
Cisco 3750.
A Cisco 3750 managed gigabit switch. I don't use managed switches. I've never used a managed switch in my life. I have no idea how to do it. But Camera Girl used to do that for,
Large company.
I was going to say for decades. Like
For
that was
decades.
you did that like practically every day, some sort of login. And anyway, so she's going to teach us together on this higher end corporate stuff. But why? Why would I do that? Well, because a lot of the corporate gigabit stuff is being retired, and it's cheaper to buy that for your home than buying a Netgear or, you know, any other brand name. So if it's the same price or less, why not get one of these big old, you know, corporate level network switches? And if you're somebody that enjoys
Super sketchy for $37.
yeah, we paid $37 and what is it, 48 ports?
48 ports.
48 ports. We're going to talk more about that in upcoming videos when we get into some networking and how that's, yeah, it seems like the deal's too good to be true. We've also seen some big, what was that big box, the Cisco?
6500.
The Cisco 6500. Those things sold for what, $20,000, $30,000?
More than that.
Well, you can order them on eBay now for $500.
Which is ridiculous.
Because companies are donating. A lot of these are coming from charities that the companies say, here, you can have our old networking equipment because they need to get it out of the building. And then the charity puts it up on eBay for some ridiculously low price.
And they have no idea what they're selling.
Yeah, they don't know what it is. And furthermore, it has to ship via
Great.
freight. Yeah, so the shipping on those is at least $300. So I'm not getting into that level. I want to talk about power bill.
Very heavy.
Talk about a power bill. But we were looking at that yesterday, and
It's a swatter.
Camera Girl was amazed at. She's like, "There's no way that's $500." Actually, it was cheaper than that. It was $450,
Yeah.
and it's massive.
It's a swatter.
Swatter,
Swatter.
Star Wars.
Swouter. It's a layer 3 switch.
A layer three switch. All right, so I'm just gonna put these two in just to keep my life simple. Okay, and we're gonna start off with a simple 2-drive RAID 0, and also demonstrate that this is something you can grow into. You don't have to fully populate it with 4 drives if you don't want to, and there may be a deficit by going to 4. Said, you start reaching a point of diminishing returns. It also depends on what motherboard and what processor you have, because if you don't have a fast enough processor that has enough PCIe lanes on your chipset, so you need the good chipset and good processor to get the most out of this. Otherwise, I suppose your computer will be the bottleneck, and you'll just use it until you upgrade your computer, knowing that when you do upgrade the computer, this thing will be ready to rock and roll at a higher performance than what you're using it for today. Something you can grow into is what I'm trying to say. Greg says, just be careful of Cisco stuff, especially if they locked you out. You might need to reflash them. Oh, Camera Girl knows all about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to learning it. And if you're a tinkerer, you're the kind of, ham radio operator kind of person that enjoys tinkering with a managed switch, why buy one new? These things are built like tanks. Companies have upgraded and they're getting rid of them. They're worthless to the company. So you pick them up for pennies on the dollar on eBay. Search for any 24-port gigabit switch on eBay, and then compare that to prices for an 8-port switch on Amazon new. Even from the no-name brand manufacturers, especially like Power over Ethernet. Now, if you want a newer switch like 2.5 gig, I don't think there's much to be had for deals on eBay. But the older 1 gig switches, tell you what, something to be said about that. And they are physically larger, and they will physically use more power. But they're also a lot more configurable. Now, again, I'm going to use this as a media creation PC, not this PC. The PC that Camera Girl's using that has the Gen5 NVMe. And this connector here, this goes to a 13-inch screen that we can mount inside the case. I think those are arriving today from Newegg. So this is going to be so cool when it's done. But since I have it out here on the bench, we're just going to use it for testing the RAID controller. And then once we get it the way we like it, we're going to make another video showing you how Camera Girl's PC, it's not really hers, but the PC she's using what?
It's mine.
Well, that's
like
okay. Every time something faster comes out, she doesn't like it anymore. I'm going to put that in a PCI by 16 slot. Should be this top slot. But you might have to check your motherboard manual. And with that, I think we're ready to turn this on and see what happens. So I'm going to go back to camera 1. Here, Claire, go ahead and turn that one off.
Back to your logo.
Back to work. Thank you, Camera Girl.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to go back to HDMI input 1, turn that on, back to camera 1, and minimize me into the corner. Picture in picture. Here we go. And this is left in the same state that I shut it off in yesterday. Good enough for our needs today. Switch on. It's good. Power switch. There it goes. And then, presuming we run all these tests successfully, we'll add the third one, do it again, add the fourth one, do it again. And with time remaining, do it with the fourth gen drives. So when RAID controllers come up, they have their own BIOS that starts, and you did see that briefly on the screen. And a lot of times, at least in the past, you used to have to hit a Control-I or whatever the key combination was to get in to the BIOS on the card to configure it. But you can also download the software and configure it through the software, which is, I think it's a bit more straightforward. But I want to show you how, well, first of all, I want to see if that's an option because it went by so quick and I was busy putting tools away. I wasn't paying attention. So bear with me for a second because I'm going to go full screen over here on my side of things so I can see. And I didn't hook up a keyboard or mouse anyway, so that's not going to get me too far. So let's get the keyboard and mouse plugged in. We'll be ready to go. That RAID card is whisper silent. The fan is not making any noticeable noise at all. I mean, maybe if you listen real carefully, there's a light, very light hum. It's barely noticeable, in case you were curious. Turn that on, turn that on. Luke Greenia says, sent you an email with a quick Zippo design. Do me a favor, send that over to the email address that's on my YouTube channel. It's showcasecreate@gmail.com. So Camera Girl can take a look at that. All right, you know what? I can probably just forward it to her. Hey, that's really cool, but why has it got like a box around it? I'll show everybody on camera. Hold on a minute, I just realized I'm still on the small camera. Let's do this. Let's go full screen for a minute, and we'll come back to this in a second. Pretty cool. You can rewind that and pause it. Something just beeped me. Oh. Okay, well, this was something she's working on, but I think I want the words to be underneath. That's kind of the idea. Let's see. Let's forward that email. Forward this. Forward. Showcasecreate@gmail.com. And Camera Girl is monitoring that email address, so you can send any inquiries over that way. She's helping take the burden off of me. And Luke says he likes Camera Girls better. I like the words. I'd like the words to be kind of wrapped around the circle. That's what I'm thinking. The power's in your hand. So bear with me also for just a second. I want to check one thing. All right, sorry about that. The reason the phone beeped is it showed there was motion outside, and I'm expecting some of those network switches from eBay to arrive today. And I thought maybe, for some reason, the mailman likes to put my mail in. If I have the garage door open, he puts it in the garage. But it's a little early for our mail. They usually aren't here till darn near dusk. So false alarm there, which is fine. Okay. Yeah. That'll give you an idea. Lighter design that we're working on. Getting back to that earlier discussion. If you're just joining us, you missed out at the beginning. All right, let's see if I can start ignoring the chat room so I can focus on what I'm doing here. I'm going to turn off camera one here for a moment. So you guys can see the whole screen the way I see it, because I don't want to cover any of this up, because this is some pretty important information if it's something you want to replicate. So we're going to do a complete shutdown, because I want that BIOS to load again. So you're going to see the no signal written on the screen. And then I'm going to turn it back on. Okay, so now the system's firing back up. And let's see if it tells us how to enter the, or even if it offers. It doesn't even offer. Interesting. Doesn't even offer. All right. Well, I guess I'm going to have to read the instructions. Let's see what it says here. The directions tell me how to put it together, how to install the drives. Okay, that's all well and good. Now we have to download a driver. It says, a variety of manuals, guides, and FAQs are available for the SSD7505 RAID controller. We recommend visiting the software downloads webpage for the latest drivers. And that's going to be at highpoint-tech.com. So let's just do that over here. We'll go open up our browser. We'll go to highpoint-tech.com / Gen4 NVMe M2. Oh, I probably have to plug internet into this for that to work, don't I? Silly me. Didn't plug the internet cable back in from yesterday. Okay. There's our Ethernet cable plugged back in. And then we should see, yeah, that just went to the little screen there. And now our page has loaded. Okay, up to 28,000 megabytes per second. Well, that's way faster than Gen 5. Okay, performance focus architecture. Lots and lots and lots of info here. The question is, where's our drivers? They do have them with passive cooling without a fan, just so you know. PCIe 4 ports. 16. Search. 7505, this is our model right here. Learn more. Okay. Just throw a quick bookmark here in case we need to come back later. Downloads. That's what I want. UEFI BIOS port, not supporting secure boot. This does support secure boot. I don't want to boot to it though. Windows 11 and 10 and server driver, Windows RAID management software. So I want both the driver, yes, and software. And we'll see those are downloading up here in the top right corner. Edge says these could be viruses because of the type of file they are. That's okay. We know they're legitimate, so we're going to keep it anyway. And we'll do the same over here. Keep it anyway. So let's start with the manager. Let's start with the driver. Extract all. Interestingly, I'm curious if the device manager even saw a driver for it. It does not. It just sees a RAID controller. So we do have to install the driver manually. Just run setup. That makes it easy. Next. Agree. It's a pretty small little driver. It should only take a minute. And we should see that RAID controller go away here in a moment. There it goes. Okay, so now Windows can see that as a storage device, even though there's no RAID configuration or partition or format, right? So to do that, we're going to want the RAID software to configure the RAID array. So then we'll bring up the software or the RAID manager, and we'll extract that one. It's a guide, a README, and just Highpoint management. Okay, well, is that just an executable file? No, it's an installer. Let's get that installed with all the defaults. Very good. And let's just get all this other stuff out of the way because it's getting messy. Finish. Let's go over to the Highpoint RAID. Oh, it brings it up via a website. It's kind of weird. Wasn't expecting that to happen. Check the login with the default password. Do you want to set your own password now? No. You can keep using the default password to log in or the password in the setting page of the RAID management utility later. That's fine. I don't want to deal with that right now. So it does tell us, it sees the two 4 terabyte drives totaling 8 terabytes. It says configured 100%, but configured for what? Physical layout. You can have multiple controllers. Firmware is 1.41. We should check to see if there's new firmware. I didn't even think about that. Let me go back over to my bookmarks here. Bookmarks, favorites. Downloads. A lot of Linux support, Mac RAID management, M1 support. It's all Mac. See anything about a firmware? Let's do this. Let's type Highpoint SSD7505 firmware. See what it comes up with. Not to load the UEFI ROM manually. I wonder if that's what those two things were. These things here. Stuff. Back under the downloads area, there was UEFI BIOS. I think that's the BIOS for the card. Let's see. 1113.1. I think that might be the firmware. Flash utility 110, UEFI ROM installer, and firmware version. Well, that's the utility. UEFI ROM 1113.1. Huh. What did I say this was? Something completely different than that. Let's close all this out again. And close that out too. Oh, I forgot that was open in a browser window. I kept thinking it was an application. Physical 3.07. That's a very different number. Oh, that's the management software, I think. Controller 1. Cool. Status is legacy. Settings. Enable auto rebuild, yes. Enable continuous rebuilding on error, yes. And restrict to local, yes. Set rebuild priority, that's fine. All these are just fine for default. Setting a password, sending email event notices. Care about that. Yeah, firmware says 1.4.1. Quite sure. Not going to worry about that for right now. So how do we build an array out of these two things here? Let me see. Rescan is if you want to rescan the controller and the installed drives for any reason, for something to refresh. Create an array, RAID 0, array name. Warning, there are 2 legacy disks. If you create RAID with the legacy disks, data on these disks will be lost. Yes, well, the drives are brand new out of the package, so let's call this RAID storage. Installation, keep all data, no. Block size. So if we're going to move big files, then we want big blocks. If we want to move a lot of small files, we want smaller blocks. Generally speaking, that's just the gist of it. Because I'm moving big video files, 512K is what I'm going to want. I want the biggest block size, and I want to select. Remember, I told you we could put in all 4 and then just pick 2 of them. But I'm just making it simple on myself and pick both of them that are there. And then I want the maximum capacity possible in a RAID 0. Our drop-down box offers us a RAID 1. It won't offer a RAID 1 and 0 because you need 4 drives to do that. So that option does not appear. And we hit create. And this should only take a moment. It shouldn't take very long at all for us to create that RAID array. Array name can only contain, oh, I can't have a space in the RAID name. So does that mean, what did it do? Cancel it? Let's change the RAID name to just RAID. Do a quick initialization. We don't want to keep any old data. 512, both drives. It's all the space. Because we can create multiple arrays if we wanted to on the same 2 drives. Now, RAID 0A has been created. So now if I go to disk management in Windows, I should be able to handle this like any other internal storage. Disk management, create and format hard drives. Perfect. There it goes. It now sees a new drive. We'll keep it at GPT because we have a file size issue with MBR. So GPT is what we want. Right click, new simple volume. Next, next, next. And we'll call this, oops, volume name, we'll call it. Do a quick format, next. Overall, pretty straightforward to set this up. That's all done. Now we'll just close everything out. We're going to go to Crystal Diskmark. Now, for the sake of comparison, we're going to run Crystal Diskmark on our C drive, which is that Fangjing Gen4 drive. That's 2 terabytes in size. We're going to run all the tests on this. Paul says it said it needed a restart. I don't think it will. Seems like it's working just fine. Now, this Gen 4 drive is fast. Normally, this is the kind of speed you'd get if we rated together 2 Gen 3 drives. We can pretty much about double the speed. Then we can almost double it, not double it, but we can add another, like in Gen 3, if each Gen 3 drive can do 3,500, then when we add 2, we should do 7,000. When we add 3, we should do 10,000. When we add 4, it typically kind of maybe gets to 10.5 or like barely grows at all. So it's great for the extra capacity, but not necessarily for the added performance. That's why I mentioned the point of diminishing returns. Now, the benefit of using Gen 3 is we can get much more capacity at a very fast, much faster than Gen 5 SSD performance using this RAID controller. And we could make this RAID controller bootable if we were masochists. Barry Klein mentions, for those interested in Carey's pressure air duster blower, it's on an Amazon deal for 30 bucks. Hey, that's a really good deal. Well, this test is running. Let's go over there. Bring up, let's go back over to Amazon. It's given us the Amazon code, which is B082X R3987. Oh, that's not the duster. I don't use that duster, and I don't recommend that duster, Barry. The dusters I use are not that big, and they don't plug in. However, if you don't mind being attached to a power cord, and you don't mind that extra heft and size, $30 is a good price. I'll just show that to everybody here briefly. Yeah, that's not my duster. I don't use that, nor would I ever use that, just so you know. I need something portable I can throw in the car, bringing it to clients and needing a place to plug it in, and it's just too big and wieldy. But if you like it, agreed, it's a good price. So just want to clarify that one part of your statement. All right. Thanks for sharing the link, Barry. All right, so now we'll let this test finish, and then we're going to run the same test now on the RAID 0 as soon as this is done. And bear in mind that this is a Gen 4 2 terabyte drive, and we're going to test 2 4 terabyte drives. So that's going to be 4 times the capacity. It should be about the same speed. Greg M said he bought a battery-powered duster and the thing's useless after a year. It stops and starts. Seller said it's because I didn't use it enough. I've had mine over a year. I've had problems with it. You should be able to crack that bad boy open, and it's just usually a lithium-ion battery. Those batteries should last a lot longer than a year. Nick Poverman provides a link to the air blower that I use and recommend. Which brand blower did you get, Greg? Just curious. So the good news is the rest of this video should move along at a much faster pace, because everything we do from this point forward with this initial testing and setup out of the way will be to just turn the machine off, pop off the heatsink off the RAID controller, put another M.2 on, put the heatsink back on, plug it back in, recreate the array again, delete the old array, create a new one using a RAID 0 with 3 drives, do this again, and then do the same thing with a 4th drive. And if we're good on time, we'll switch the drives out for Gen 4, the Fanzheng 2 terabyte Gen 4 drives. But that's going to cut my capacity in half. Greg says I cracked it open, and it has 3 18650 batteries spot welded together. It's made by TEAMGROUP. I don't think that was one I ever recommended, though, was it? Paul says, Carey, that's the C drive. Yes, I told you. It's weird when I talk and people don't hear me. I don't know why this happens on YouTube, where I can say things and people say, Carey, did you know? And they literally repeat back what I just said. And I don't know if this is a little game some people are playing to try and get under my skin, or if they're honestly just not listening. This is the Gen 4 Fanzheng drive. And I wanted to show this to you because I want to show you that the Gen 3 drives in a RAID 0 should perform about the same, okay? Because we've got them in a RAID 0, but I really don't know what our real performance is going to be. So let me find that out now. So try and remember these numbers here, or you can always rewind the video. But basically 7,100 sequential writes, 6,600 sequential reads. Now let's drop down to the D drive and let's run that same test again. Remember, this is Gen 3 that runs at 3,500 and about 3,000 on the reads and writes sequentially. Let's see what kind of numbers we get. Look at that. Almost identical to that single Gen 4 drive, but instead of 2 terabytes, I've got 8 terabytes. Now here's the thing. When I add another 4 terabyte Gen 3 drive, I should likely see this go to 10,000. And then when we add another one after that, that's when you're going to notice, in all likelihood, the speeds start to come down. But we're going to find out here. I could be wrong. Craig says Carey doesn't come with subtitles. Oh, subtitles are all built into your browser now. Chrome can do subtitles on any video, live, pre-recorded, whatever. It's no longer on the content creator to have to do that. In fact, I got a whole video that shows you how you can add your own subtitles. You don't have to hope that the content creator has subtitles enabled. And furthermore, I cannot enable subtitles on low latency live broadcast. My latency is so low, it's the lowest setting, so that there's only about a 4-second delay between when I talk and when you hear me. And that's not enough time for their closed captioning to keep up. But for some reason, the browser can do it. So you can enable that on your browser, but not through YouTube. Ken Jung says, hello, welcome in, Ken. Davis Parsons says, due to all the electrical connections I need for all my equipment and RGB, I'm going to have to add at least 3 more 20 amp circuits to my computer room. Holy cow. Holy cow. And let's see if our write speeds are better than the Gen 4, because the Gen 4 was at 6,600. I think we're going to do about better than that, I think. Getting ready to do the sequential writes. Oh, it's actually a little lower than I expected it to be. So the single Gen 4 drive is a little bit faster than the 2 Gen 3 drives. But on the other hand, that single Gen 4 drive was 2 terabytes. And these 2 Gen 3 drives are 4 terabytes each for a total of 8. So I have 4 times the capacity and pretty darn close to the same read and write speed. And the beauty of it is I don't have to upgrade my motherboard, right? If you have a Generation 9 board, I'm not even sure how far back you could go with this, but you could probably go back to at least Generation 8 and still get these benefits that you would perhaps find desirable in Gen 4 or Gen 5, but that's going to require a new motherboard and a new processor. And in the case of 13th gen, DDR5 RAM, perhaps, that gets to be very expensive just to add a little bit more I/O boost. This is a much more affordable, less invasive, less time to set up, less labor intensive. And like I said, use it as a D drive. Don't use it as your boot drive. That would be my recommendation. You can use it as a boot drive. I strongly advise against it. When we set up a RAID 0, you have to understand that if any of the drives fail or become corrupted, it corrupts everything. So backups are critical. And especially if you're going to say we max this thing out with 4 8-terabyte drives for a total of 32 terabytes, how are you going to back up 32 terabytes? I hope you have a very large drive you can attach via USB or through a very large NAS. And I hope you have a fast network connection, because if you've got, well, I did 5 terabytes the other day from one NAS to the other at 1 gig internet connection speed, not internet, but 1 gig LAN connection speeds. That took 15 hours. So imagine 6 times that. You better bring a couple of Snickers bars is all I'm saying. So let's label this, and we're going to call this Highpoint SSD7505 RAID 0, 2 drives at 4 terabyte Gen3 Team NVMe. All right, that's what we're going to call this. And then we will do a Alt print screen. We'll go over here to the Paint program. Scroll this down. Go over here. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
Why are you leaving? JPEG. Oh, gotta check on the kitty. Okay, so RAID 0, 2, this will be 8 terabyte, 2 times 4 terabyte. .jpeg. So I keep all this in order. We're going to save that to the desktop here. We don't want to save anything on the RAID array because we're about to wipe that out. So with those results saved, let's move to the next thing. I'm not going to run ATTO yet. We're going to save that because it takes a little while to run. So let's wait until we get our best performance possible through the controller. Whoops, where's my camera one? There it is. So I've shut this down. I'm going to turn off the power. Hop over into the chat and see what you guys are talking about. Oh, good. You guys are having a whole nother discussion on something else entirely. Don't let me interfere. All right, let me pop this out of here. Now, since we already have the driver and the software installed, this is going to go quick. I think I'll go ahead and put the last 2 in, and then we'll configure it once with 3 drives in a RAID 0, and then the last time with 4 drives in the RAID 0. And we'll just ignore that 4th drive during our next test. And that way I don't have to take this out and open it up again, unless I want to put in those Gen 4 drives and run the test again. Hey, do you think you can use 32 terabytes of internal storage on your thumbnail builder? How did I know that was going to be your answer? That's going to get expensive. That's $3,200 just for the 4 8 terabyte drives. And then another $700 for this and sales tax. It's over $4,000. Maybe we start smaller and wait till we start running low on space. It's a little bit stuck. Okay. Careful not to harm that little cable there. Now my cable got caught on the drawer. Okay. Now ideally you're going to want to use all the same drives in a RAID array. to get the best performance and reduced latency as best as possible. And also to not lose any space due to capacity being, one drive smaller than the other, you could potentially lose the capacity of larger drives. So I'd say keep it simple. Use 4 drives that are the same. Okay, talk to you later. Thank you. There's no mail in the garage, is there? Were there any new boxes in the garage? Okay. Last one. Down. Turn this over this way. Wish this had some guides to align the holes on the heatsink with the holes on the circuit board. So it is a little bit more difficult to line it up manually without any tabs or notches to sort of align it for you. But this isn't something you would be opening up very often anyway. For the most part, once you typically set up a RAID array, typically won't be changed for many years in most cases. And don't over tighten the screws, folks. Just want them snug. In there. Just like so. Turn this power supply back on. Power. And it's firing up, so we'll go back over to HDMI. Okay, sees all the drives. Must have grabbed a Windows update in the background because that has nothing to do with anything we've done as far as I know. Unless it had to do with that software we installed that wanted the restart. That typically happens during a Windows update. That's all right. Whatever it is. Katrina says, hey, a Zippo lighter with your logo on it's an awesome idea. Please make them. We're working on it. We're working on it, and we're going to try and see what we can get for bulk pricing on that. Because they're about $40, and then on top of that, we have to reship them again, which is another $10. So they're probably going to be around a $50 price point at the cheapest. Our good friend Mitch Morrison's joining us in the chat today. Welcome in, Mitch. Well, whatever it was, it needed a reboot. Fred Mays says hello from Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome in, Fred. All right, so now what I need to do is, didn't it leave the icon on here for me? Guess not. Start. All apps. Under Highpoint. Nothing under H. Where did the software go? Nothing under R for RAID. Forgot what the software was called, and I thought it left an icon on the desktop. Okay, now I'm confused because I did download those drivers. What happened? I'm baffled here. Let's go back to disk management. Sees disk 1 and disk 3, but it's going to see those apparently just as regular disks. If we want to configure them as part of the RAID array, just don't know where our files we downloaded went to. They're not in my downloads directory. So where did they go? Alan Lindos contributes $7.77. He says, here is my late fee. Hey, Alan, thank you for that. It's our crystal disk mark. And where did our saved everything we put on there is gone now. Is it something to do with that update that just finished? Weird. Do I still have the bookmark in the browser? It's almost like I booted up to a different desktop. It's going through all this all over again. Acts like it's reset itself, but don't know why it would have done that. So, Highpoint, SSD7505, store, support, products, NVMe, .505. Downloads. Once again, we're going to grab the driver. I don't know where it went. That's really bugging me that that stuff all vanished. Then we're going to grab the utility so I can figure the RAID. Shows RAID management software. It's so weird. For my data to get lost like that, to not have saved that JPEG image. It's very strange. Even our download history got wiped. Well, that's what testing is for. No idea what that was all about. So let's go ahead and bring up the Highpoint. RAID manager, that's what I want. Now it's back on there where I wanted it. Give that a second. It should find the controller. Says there's a different user when in boot up. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why it did that. That would explain that mystery. It's doing some kind of weird download in the background. That looked like a video driver install. Am I still waiting on Windows updates? Is that what's throwing me off? Yep, that's exactly what's happening. Let me get these out of the way. Cool. Let's close all this. Restart required. Let's restart it again. Wonder why it would switch users on me. Yeah, you're right. It should be booting up as DJ Big Red. Good catch, guys. There's our RAID BIOS loading. Yeah, now it just says user. Why did that happen? Let's go here. Change account settings. Sign out. Now, does it offer me 2? It only offers me the 1. Well, that is a heck of a mystery. Let's go ahead and bring up the RAID controller. See if it comes up now. Back under physical. Settings. Kind of a slow response going this way. Over to physical. Anything. Avery Ramstorff contributes $4 in the super chat. Thank you, Avery. Down here it says waiting for local host. Did we lose the Highpoint driver? It says driver's not found. Let's take a look in the device manager. Oh, we got a bunch of stuff that didn't load for some reason. It's like it restored before we put the, as you recall, we had the ASRock auto, the driver auto updater. So that was the ASRock. You know what? That is really, really strange. Let me go over here to the C drive real quick and take a look under users. So DJ Big Red doesn't even exist. Wow, that is weird. I have no idea what that's all about. That up. Keep. Anyway. Oh, do you know what I think happened? I think I know what happened. I can explain this now. One of those 4 terabyte storage drives was one I was testing on the mini PCs, but all the rest of them were brand new. Inadvertently, when I put the previous Team drive in that still had Windows on it, it has now booted from the RAID controller instead of booting. This is not what I wanted to do. So I absolutely want to change that. So instead of going through all this all over again, because this wasn't making any sense, I get what happened now. All of those drives, I had 10 TEAMGROUP 4 terabyte drives. We used 6 of them in the ASUS Store Flash Store 6 NAS, and that's where they remain, because that's going to be some testing going on, which I haven't gotten around to. I had 4 left, but I kept the one on top. Kept it on top for a reason, because that was my go-to if I ever wanted to swap out, test a 4 terabyte drive to see if these mini PCs that claim they can only hold 2 terabytes of storage. We have obviously booted to one of the 4 drives in here. So there should be an easy way around this, which is I'm going to go back. I'm so glad this makes sense to me. It's really kind of crazy. Paul M's contributes $5 in Super Chat, says, I've never seen that happen before. Well, it totally makes sense. This is a bootable card, and one of those NVMe drives was bootable. Shame on me. I should have wiped those drives out, or at least that one that I was using. So I'll tell you what, let me go back over to the computer, and we're going to restart it and change the boot order. Silly me. And this is why I like doing the live videos, because this kind of confusion is quite real. And it's a good reason to start with clean drives on your RAID controller. Yeah, we just booted to the RAID controller. So now we should just simply be able to go into the BIOS by pressing delete over and over. Terrell Cochran says this proves you don't need the RAID driver to boot from one drive. You know what? It's an interesting point. I would assume you would need that, but let's see if we can change our boot order. I don't know why this keeps going to a liquid cooler. I keep changing it to air. Advanced mode, boot. And let's change this boot manager. See that? The HPT VD0? That's our RAID controller. We want it to be that one first. So now it's on the Fangjing. And that one, I'm just going to disable that one, quite frankly, because I don't want to deal with that ever again. Earning my money today. Save changes and exit. Here we go. This time when we boot, we should have our desktop icons back, and then I can reset up the RAID array again and wipe those drives out. Silly me. But here you go. I mean, it was so seamless. I didn't even notice it. There's DJ Big Red. That's what I wanted to see. And now we should be able to pull up the RAID controller and reconfigure that. Under logical, I think, right? Bear with me for just 1 second. I think I have a package at the door. Yep, it was Newegg. Package from Newegg. Okay, where was I? Create an array. Got to use the right mouse, Carey. Create an array. No devices available. Settings. Should be able to reconfigure this array in here somewhere. Storage Health Inspector. I was wondering what SHI was. The physical should show us that we have 4 drives installed. Current link width is only by 8. That's interesting because we'll obviously see a benefit if we put this in a by 16. Is that 16, what is that, gigatransfers or something? It stands for. I'm not seeing anything on this RAID controller. I'm not even seeing our previous RAID. So I wonder, do we still have a D drive now? Still there. Oh, it only sees that one. Oh, that's interesting. That is interesting. Yeah, it's not seeing anything. That's just fascinating. Let's try this. Let's do something old school here. Let's go to our command prompt as an administrator. Disk part, this disk. All right. Select disk 1, name. Oh, I'm confused. I'm going to take a closer look at these numbers. We should have a bunch of 4 terabyte drives in here, but it's showing, okay, disk 0 and disk 1 both show 4 terabytes. And it's not showing us the other two in the RAID 0 for some reason. So it looks like I want to select. So we must be booting off disk 2 right now. So select disk 0. Clean it. Then select disk 1, which should be brand new, and clean that one too. Exit and exit. Okay. Shut down. Shut it down completely. And I'll wait for it to power off. Then we'll turn it back on again. Switch back over. Should see the RAID controller loading all 4 of the NVMe drives. Device found 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, and 3, which is good. PC needs to be restarted. That's weird. So I don't know where my RAID 0 array went. It's just not there anymore. But if he wants me to restart, let's restart it again. I'm a little wobbly on this RAID bicycle, if you will. I haven't ridden one in a long time. So the interface, well, it is mostly the same as any other RAID interface I've worked with. It is slightly different. So I just have to sort of realign myself, get to know it a little better since it's been such a long time. See how they've changed the way the interface looks or where they've moved things around. And that restart's going to take a while for some reason. And while I'm waiting, I'll grab a cold Gatorade. This one's gotten warm. Camera 1 up here and just put me in the corner. We keep an eye on this. This is very unusual behavior. Everything started off really, really well, and then it all just kind of went sideways on me. Now it just sits here with restarting indefinitely, and I don't want to wait forever. This is a fast computer, so I'm going to cut the power. And remember, if we were using a RAID array as a boot drive, that's a good way to corrupt your RAID array. So it's very important if you're going to use a RAID 0, you always want backups of that. I'm thinking of using it as like a scratch drive. Not that I would need that many terabytes for a scratch drive. I'm just surprised it doesn't offer us the ability to get into the BIOS of the card. I don't know if the instructions mentioned. Oh. They do have a user guide that we can download for more detailed information. Okay, we got the RAID array back. So I don't know what that was all about. So I'm going to go ahead and start this up now, and it should be a simple matter of erasing the current array and then creating a new one. This is now working as it should. does show 16 terabytes total. Over to the logical menu, pulls up the information on the RAID. So remember, we're only using 2 of the 4 drives we've installed. What I want to do is delete the array. Right click on it. No. Create array. Warning, there are 2 legacy disks. Yeah. Okay. But what if, well, I don't want to spare. Never mind. Click on that. Electrical devices. Click on that. Maintenance. Maybe it's under maintenance. Ah, yes, there it is. Delete. Let's just delete it. We'll go to create. This time it'll be a RAID 0 using drives 1. Oh, I have to click this first. 0, drive 1, and drive 2. And we'll just ignore the 4th drive. Create that. Okay. Format's done. Close, close, close. Let's minimize that. Let's go to folder over to this PC. We should have more than 7. Should be at 12 now. Something, do I have to reboot? RAID 0. Capacity 12.29. It's not, oh, probably because the partition size. Let's go back to disk management. That's the 3rd drive. Yeah, so that's what happened is the partition. So let's just delete this volume. And now it's 12 terabytes. We'll do a new simple volume. Next. Okay, now we have the RAID set up with 3 of those 4 terabyte drives. Yeah, it's been a little bit shaky on the little shaky ground here for Uncle Carey today. It's been a while. And let's run Crystal Disk Mark again. Make sure we have the D drive selected. And here we go. We're off to the races. Now I want to see 369. I want to see 10,000 on this. Give me 10. Come on, minimum of 10. Let's go. That's not any better. That's the same as it was before. I wonder if it's because we're in that by 16. Because we're by 8 instead of by 16. I wonder what the maximum throughput is on by 8. That number is not any different than it was. Should be way better than that. So I'm going to try one more thing, which is a reboot. Although I shouldn't have to. Maybe. Stop this. Shut down. Start. Nick says you need to put it in a by 16. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Probably because I'm using that NVMe slot just above that PCIe slot. Let's give this a shot one more time. So back over to the yellow folder and back over to this PC. There's our 12 terabytes. It's all empty, looks good. Back over to Crystal Disk Mark, 64-bit. Yes. Let's just do the two top speeds. If that's sitting at 7,000, then I think it's a limitation of the by 8 slot. But I thought by 8 went faster than that. Thought it went, yeah, it's the same. So let's try a different slot. So we'll turn this off, shut it down. This is a Z790 board, so I'm assuming the other two PCIe slots may be by 16. I don't know, and I don't want to look at the instructions. I'm going to just keep moving. Three to choose. So let's go to the next one. See if that makes it any happier. I mean, it's that easy. Well, you're still flipping through pages. I'm already rebooting. There, starts booting now. Flipper Flop says maximum data transfer by 8 is 7880 megabytes a second. Oh, well, there you go. And when you have the overhead for error correction, I guess that makes sense. I don't know what speed the slot is that we've just put it in here. So let's try that and see. Like I said, I'm the kind of person, I dive in. And some people are more wanting to study and read directions. I'm more dive in kind of guy. And again, I could pull up the utility and see what it's rated at. We're not even seeing the RAID controller now. What the heck? Cancel that. Oh, it says a restart's required. Okay. Apparently it loads the driver individually for the slot. So let's restart it again. When you set up the RAID controller, you need to set aside some time. And like I said, the reason these don't have like real fast disconnects and things is because normally once this is set up, you'll leave it that way for years in most cases. So this is normal, especially if you don't do this for a living. You sort of have to feel it out, figure it out. Most people that make content like this on YouTube do all this on camera and then edit out all of their errors and misunderstandings and then come here and tell you, here's how you do it. It's all edited and polished and you don't see the whole learning process. I don't know. I just kind of feel that's a bit deceptive because it's not really showing it the respect that it really deserves with regards to what you're going to get involved in if you want to do that. So we bring this up now, sees the RAID controller, and what slot do we have here? Oh, we're worse. We're at by 4 on that slot. Okay, we're going to shut it down. We'll move it into the last slot. So we'll shut this down. That to turn off. Always flip the switch off the power supply or disconnect power when you're going to plug or unplug anything on your motherboard. Because even when it's off, it still has a little bit of power running through it. Let's see if we have any better luck here. Now, if you have a cheaper board, like one of those B series or H series boards, you likely are only going to have one PCIe 16 slot. And this board may only have one, for all I can tell. So we'll try this one last one. I mean, this is supposed to be Crossfire enabled. So, although I think when you do that, it goes to by 8 on each one. I'm not sure. Things get a little messy. V Manor mentions that by putting the Gen 4 drive in this top slot, it's reducing the speed of the PCIe slot below it, which is what I was concerned was happening. And of course, we talked about that on the Gen 5, that if you use the Gen 5 drive up here, that our PCIe slot would drop to by 8 instead of by 16. So if that's the case, and if we're going to max out at, 7,000 megabytes a second, going to Gen 4 drives for the sole purpose of performance would be a waste of money. This isn't seeing it at all. Something strange is happening here. Now, the last 2 times we moved it, it needed to restart after loading some kind of a driver. It's not asking me to restart now. So I'm going to restart it anyway. Come on now. I lose patience for this, so I'm just going to cut the power to it. And we'll turn it back on. Now, if this was a system that had data on it, I would obviously use something like a Cronus and back the data up. Or I certainly wouldn't be turning it off. Well, it's in the middle of doing something. You'd be much better off being patient and waiting for that to time out. But we should still see the RAID controller in this last slot. I just want to determine first what speed the last slot is in. That did come up correctly this time, so let's see what it tells us. Hopefully it'll read this correctly now. So it does show 16 terabyte capacity. And the physical side of things could tell us about the speed of the slot here. Or that delay when I click on stuff, though. Ugh. Could we move the boot drive? Yeah, of course. But I just want to try this. I want to know what this other slot is, or at least how it's being detected. It doesn't seem to like this slot at all. Current link speed is 16. Okay, what I wanted to see. All right, so that means we don't have to move our NVMe drive. And our RAID array (12 terabytes), and it is. So that means we can now run Crystal Disk Mark again. File. Here it is. Sure, we're on drive E. Here we go. Now I want to see 10,000. Show me 10. Still at 7,000 for some reason. Oh, did it say it was a by 4 slot? Did I misread it? Let me go back. Physical. Where did I see by 16? I swear that said by 16 a moment ago. Okay. Well, that's just fine. It's fine. So since this is configured as 12 terabytes, here's what we can do. We'll shut this all back down. Just like this. And I'll get my screwdriver here. We can go back full screen on camera. Power. Where should I put this drive? I mean, you know, for our purposes here, just use this exposed drive. It's not going to have a heat sink on it, which is not ideal. Let's do something I said I wasn't going to do. We just install Windows 11 on this drive. Leave the other drive out altogether. Should put us in by 16. Then we can get something done today. Windows 11. This will work with Windows 10 as well. Let's go ahead and plug that bad boy in right there. Now remember, I've disabled this as a boot device, so I'm going to have to go back into the BIOS and change that. Here it goes, starting up now. Then we'll go back over to the HDMI input on this. And in theory, it should boot to that flash drive. In just a moment, we should see a Windows 11 option to install. Now, if I wanted to buy, you know, I don't know, like an MSI Godlike board or something, bear in mind that when you're paying more for a motherboard, that's partly what you're paying for are more by 16 slots, more channels, and, you know, chipsets that can handle that much traffic. It's a $200 motherboard, and apparently they only have the 1 by 16 slot. And if we use that M.2 above it, it's going to cut it in half. So for the sake of just experimentation, we'll just boot off of this one drive. So we go next, install. Oh, I'm going to need the RAID driver, aren't I? Yeah, Trevor, I think you're right. I'll say I don't have a product key here. Windows 11 Pro. Does it see the RAID controller? Let's find out. It'll tell us right now if we need it or not. Custom. Oh, hello. That's disk 0 partition 2 is the one we want right there. But where are this? Oh, that's drive 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, we probably are going to need the RAID driver. Let's just see what happens. I'm just kind of curious. Mature Windows might create additional partitions. Okay. I don't know. Let's find out what happens. No idea. Windows cannot format the partition. Yeah, we're going to need that RAID driver. Okay. Good to know. So I'm going to shut this back off. So there's a lot of different ways we can proceed forward. If I wanted to, I can get the RAID driver, put it on a flash drive, load it that way. I was just doing this to make it go faster, but clearly it's not helping. So we'll just go ahead and put this back in our boot drive. And we'll just put it in this slot right here for now. I'm just concerned about the heat that this is going to generate without the heat sink. And if I pull this heat sink, then I have to peel the tape on it. And I really don't want to because I like to keep the tape on it for the customer. So yeah, this might get a little hot over here. We're not going to keep it that way. We're just doing this for testing purposes. Okay, okay. On. Oh, there it goes. Let's see what happens this time. Hopefully it boots to that Beijing Fanjing. Any key to skip the disk checking. Okay. So far, so good. Not even going to look at the link speed. Just going to run the darn thing. Oh, that's going to bring up the photo. I don't want the photo. Those were our numbers. Where'd my D drive go? Now it's not even there. I think every time I'm moving these drives around, it's like having to reload drivers. I guess I was looking at that number 16 before. Is there just a delay in the driver loading it? Is that why it's doing that? Let's do disk management. See it. Disk 1 is, oh, that's the other 4 terabyte drive. It says it's healthy but raw. Okay, we need to format it. I think the Windows installer erased it. Okay, those were our numbers. Okay, 10,000 now? Can I have 10,000? Is that asking so much? All I want is 10,000. Hey, now we're at 10,000. Okay, all right. Let me stop this test and let's do all of the tests, okay? So we'll run the entire thing and then we'll save that as the 3 drive RAID 0. And then I shouldn't have to reboot. I should be able to erase the array, create a new array, RAID 0, all 4 drives, and run this test one more time. Now those numbers are what we're essentially getting from that single Gen 5 SSD, that's 2 terabytes, only we've got 6 times more storage. And the price difference? Basically, we've got a controller card and then $200 each for the 3 drives. That's $600. The controller card 7 at $1,300. And these Gen 5 drives, like a 4 terabyte Gen 5 drive will run $670, but that one will do 12,000 megabytes per second. Avery Ramstorff contributes $2.56. He says, Carey, check your email. And then he contributes again, $1.28. Thank you, Avery. Yeah, I can check my email now while I'm, well, we're waiting for these test results. Avery sends an Amazon gift card of $4. Hey, thank you, Avery. Some of the networking stuff I ordered from eBay is now showing it's been sent with tracking. I'll let that finish. In the meantime, I'm just going through some emails here. Let's see. $7,600 on the right, it's almost $7,700. Not too shabby for Gen 3, right? He says the slot I just put the NVMe drive in is only PCIe 3x1. I don't care though. I mean, I'm not interested in keeping this RAID drive or this RAID controller card in this machine. I'm only interested in testing the speed that's possible to get out of it with the Gen 3 drives versus the Gen 4 drives. That's all. I just had a little bit of hiccups there getting over those bumps, but everything should be a lot smoother now. Not a big deal. When we're done, I intend to put that Fangjing drive right back where it was, and this RAID card will be removed. Just doing this for the video. And this is, how did I name this before? I said Highpoint SSD7505. If I can spell. What's wrong with my G? Sticking. It's really sticking. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to clean this keyboard after the show. That G doesn't want to go down anymore. That look about right. Looks right to me. And we'll bring up Paint. Paste. Save as JPEG. Change that to 3. Okay, there's our numbers there. Then close this, and bring this back up, and let's recreate the RAID array. So through repetition, right, you'll get familiar. I know now I got to go to logical, right? And I want to delete this RAID device, so I go to maintenance. Look at me, I know what I'm doing now. Delete. Okay. And give it a minute, refreshes. I'm going to create an array. This time we're going to use all 4. Select all. Okay, that's created. We'll go to disk management and we'll partition and format it. Yep. So now we're at 16 terabytes. Simple volume. Do a quick format there. Good to go. And we're going to start up Crystal Disk Info, or sorry, Crystal Disk Mark. And just to double check, if I go to this PC, our drive. Perfect. So big. And we'll run the full test suite again. Hmm. 14,135. That's not too shabby. Remember, these are Gen 3 drives. I guess I'll scroll through the chat room here and see what I've been missing while I've been trying to sort out my math on this thing here. I mean, 14 is nothing to shake a stick at. It does make me wonder what Gen 4 can do. I just don't have any Gen 4 4-terabyte drives, or at least I would need 3 of them at a very minimum, I think. So we did see a benefit every time we added a drive. Now, this doesn't necessarily happen this way when you're using a motherboard's built-in RAID controller that's software-based. So that is the benefit of using a hardware controller. Let's see what kind of write speeds. Are we going to get 10,000 on the writes? just finishing that last read. Gonna take a 5-second break. Now it's gonna start doing the sequential write in the top right. See if that's gonna be a 5-digit number. Oh, so close. Still got a couple more tests, but that is just, oh, there we go. We got there. We got there. Look at that. Nick Poverman says, do you know QNAP makes an NVMe report NAS? It's called, no, I haven't looked into that, but I'm digging the ASUS store, and for right now, until I get caught up with with projects I've got, I'm not going to take on anymore. I've never even used a QNAP device, and I suspect Synology should probably be coming out with one here pretty soon as well. So we did see a benefit going 2 drives. We saw a benefit going to 3 drives, and we continue to see benefit going to 4 drives, all in a RAID 0 performance array. That's good to know, because it isn't always the case. As I mentioned, especially when you're using multiple M.2 slots on your own motherboard and using your motherboard's BIOS to turn on and control the RAID, you likely will not have a similar experience. You'll likely start to drop off after 3 drives. And motherboards today often have 5 M.2 slots. So just so you know, if you're going to spend the money, it's something you could look into. Or you can use the board you've got now in most cases and just buy the SSD controller, which is way more reliable than using any built on the motherboard RAID that you might have. Just so you know, it's doable, but this is always preferred. Okay, it looks like we're just about done with the tests. We're on write number 505 here. That's not too bad. So once again, I'm going to just copy what I've written over. Highpoint SSD. Seven. Put SSD in twice. Okay. Let's print screen that bad boy. Oops, I didn't want the whole screen. I just wanted the. Try that again. It's better. File, save as, JPEG. Boom. Okay. So now, if we want to do ATTO, that'll be the time to do that on this controller. Because this would be the best we could expect out of a Gen 3 4 terabyte drive performance out of this controller. So of all things being equal, in other words, if you're using a similar motherboard that has the capabilities of this kind of data transfer, which is basically PCIe by 16, then you could expect these numbers. Let's go to TTO. This is probably an Here we go. Will it increase, Paul wants to know, will it increase the speed of encoding if the drive is faster? It depends on how you're encoding, what software you use, what codec you use, what version of software, what version of codec, your video settings and bitrate. I can't tell you, because of all those variables, what your results will be. Hang in there for a minute, guys. Well, that's running. I'm just checking the front door again. All quiet on the Western Front. And I'll grab those Gen 4 drives. Does anybody have any questions about the RAID controller or how RAID works that I can answer for you while we're waiting for the tests to finish? Because the next thing we're going to do is shut it back down. Actually, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to erase the RAID array. Then I'm going to shut it down, remove those 4 drives, and put in these 3 S880 Beijing drives I've got. And then we'll plug it back in, set it up again as a RAID 0 with 3 drives with Gen 4. And we'll see what sort of performance numbers we get. I wish I had a 4th one to use, but in order for me to do that, I would have to clone this Beijing drive onto, well, I guess I could put the P41 back in there. Think about it. You know what? Maybe I'm going to do that. You'd still have the P41 sitting up here. Troll McTrollington said, I've never found a use for RAID ever since the first time you did a video on it 10 years ago. You know, that's the beauty of computers, though. Right? Well, you don't find a use for it. Many others do. We all use our computers in different ways. And one of the key things, first of all, is understanding what what's capable of doing, what is possible, and whether or not that would benefit you, the individual. So I don't expect most people to have any benefit from RAID. But if, for the sake of understanding what it is and how it works and what the costs, benefits, and potential cons are, I think it makes for some very interesting content as it relates to stuff you could potentially do at home. That's not going to cost you an arm and a leg like some of the other stuff that you'll see enthusiasts do. That's like multiple thousands of dollars. There's our final ATTO benchmark score. So I'll grab a screenshot of that. Save as a JPEG. Now here's the thing, I'm going to wipe out this Beijing drive. So I'm going to have to copy these files onto, well, I guess I can just put it on my flash drive. Let's take these files, right click, Copy. Let's go to the flash drive I've got plugged in. Just used my utilities flash drive. Let's create a new folder. Call it Highpoint. Click, paste those there. And then I'm also going to lose the downloads here. So, for the sake of just keeping everything, for me to be able to put everything back the way it was, I'll just copy all this. And I'll also put it under. Keep looking for the paste option, not the stupid picture. That should have us covered there. Close this. Changes, no. We'll bring up, yeah, since we have everything copied now, we'll bring this back up and we'll go ahead and delete this RAID array. So back over to logical. Maintenance. Delete. Give that a minute. It's going to refresh itself. Yep. And now all those drives are blank, completely emptied. So that's good. Shut this down. And then I can go over to camera 1. Here I am. Got power. Display. This bad boy out of here. Take this out, even though I'm going to have to put it back in. Take it out. I'll just leave it here for a minute. And the other thing I want to do is take this Beijing drive out so we can put 4 in, because I want to see the maximum performance options with these 2 terabyte drives that are Gen 4 and how that compares, knowing that a 4 terabyte Gen 4 would run even faster. But we're going to just go ahead and keep these in this slot here. Then hopefully, if in fact it is a slower slot, that'll also help keep us from overheating without a heatsink on these. Now I'm going to take these drives out. And we'll put those drives in. Keeping in mind that this drive has an operating system on it. So we're going to need to wipe that out. Can you imagine 4 of those Oyen digital 8 terabyte drives? That'd be 32 terabytes total at Gen 4 performance. But it would be about sales tax over $4,000. A little rich for my blood. So stick with the 2 terabyte drives because these are only 80, 90 bucks a piece. And what I'm thinking in my head is to put the 4 terabyte drives in it permanently that I've got in there now, that I'm just going to end up putting it right back. But I just want to see the performance numbers just to see if it's worth considering. Is Gen 3 going to be fine, or is there a significant difference in Gen 4? At some point, I'm sure even with the RAID controller, we're going to reach a point of diminishing returns on consumer hardware. At some point, you need a server, right? If you're really pushing the boundaries. Because I'm going to need to hold on to these boxes. These drives that I take out, I'm going to have to put back in here and put them back on the shelf for future builds, because I actually have a couple builds where I was planning to use these. Now I just got to know. Did I know when I woke up today that I was going to be doing this? No, I didn't. Wasn't even sure I was going to be doing a video today. The more I've been thinking about this, the more I've been wanting to know. Figure out how I'm going to stack that so I don't knock everything over. Okay, we're down to the last one, folks. Personally, I would prefer capacity over speed, because capacity, I will see a real world improvement for me as being useful. The speed, well, it looks great on benchmarks, ultimately is going to result in just a few seconds of performance difference on very, very large internal file transfers. The minute I have to transfer those files to a different drive or over the network or to a flash drive, any benefit of the high performance just gets thrown out the window. Now we put the heatsink back on. James Prezi with a $2 contribution says, I love the unique content. That's a great drive controller. Well, Highpoint has been around a very long time. I remember using Highpoint controllers in the 90s. So when I saw the brand, I knew I could trust them. Although I did still read the reviews. That one wasn't even in there. Now, most of you, if you were going to do this, you would only take that off once. You'd put your drives in once. You wouldn't be taking this in and out and in and out like I am. But I just want to see, for all of our benefits, is it worth spending more for the Gen 4 drives? Better off with the Gen 3 drives. And I'm speaking strictly about performance. Now, in theory, that SK Hynix drive that I put back should have our configuration from before. So on the other hand, one of the drives I just moved over was the one we were booting from, and I wonder if it's going to try and boot from that. I suppose I can take a look in the BIOS and find out. So let me go back over to HDMI input, got my keyboard here, and wait for the BIOS, for the post screen to appear. Okay, there's our drives. I'll start hitting delete. And let's see. Just boot. Oh, good. Yeah, that's the one we want to boot first. So it's still good. So escape, discard changes, yes. Let's boot it up. Here we go. James Prezi says, I wonder what the likelihood of failure on something like that is. Well, the failure could be something as simple as a data corruption, right? That's more than likely what you'll suffer from with these. And that's why you always want to keep backups. Very important. I'm going to skip the disk checking. I'm not worried about that. Okay. And then I'll take my flash drive and plug it back in so we can copy all of these files back over. We're going to have to reload the RAID software. And I'll copy over the benchmarks just for the sake of keeping it all on the same drive here, even though I'm probably going to erase this drive and put the other Fangjing back in. So let's go over here, here. Well, that's interesting. So it's seeing the previous drive. Of course it is. See over to the, oh, that's, what's this? Oh, I plugged the wrong flash drive in. Eject that. What flash drive did I plug in? Oh, that's Windows 11, Carey. Why did I plug in Windows 11? Put my utilities flash drive back in there. Too much stuff on my desk. Let's just copy all of this. Just put it in the downloads directory, I suppose. These were our screenshots. Then driver. Let's see, we want that. That's the manager. Here's our driver. to the RAID manager. Install that. And a restart's required. I'm not going to argue with it. Let's restart it. Jim wants to know, did the fact that you used a RAID 0 as a boot drive contribute to the instability of the original Thready? The instability of Thready was a compiled issue. It had a RAM compatibility problem, and then that led to corrupting the RAID array, which then meant I couldn't boot to anything without a special boot drive with a driver in it to see the C drive, and it was like a series of dominoes falling. So it wouldn't have avoided, whether or not we used RAID 0 would not have changed the RAM incompatibility issue, but it did add another issue on top of it that complicated furthering the repair, because now instead of just fixing the one issue, I was fixing two. So the answer to your question is yes and no. All right, let's see if we can start this up again. Back over to logical. And we array using all 4 drives. Hopefully it'll just automatically wipe out that 4th drive. Maximum 512. These are all 2 terabyte drives. That's going to give us a total of 8 terabytes. Keeping in mind, I could buy a single 8 terabyte drive for $800. That 8 terabyte drive will move the data about 7,000 megabytes per second. So if this isn't moving the data 3 times faster, then it's probably not worth spending, to Gen 4. That's what I'm thinking. Disk management. Yes. Sees all 8 terabytes. That's ready to rock and roll. Still disk info. D. Go. All right, guys. What do you think? What numbers are we going to hit? 25? 28? I'd like to see 26. Oh, not even close. Not even close. Wah, wah. You know what? Let me just check the device manager and make sure the RAID controller is loaded correctly, because that seems way too slow. Property. Manager. Yeah, everything looks happy in there. Why is that so slow? What were we getting on Gen 3? Same numbers on Gen 3. Well, this looks like it's running in Gen 3 mode then. Let me stop this. So this looks like we're still running in Gen 3. So let's go back into that management software and see what it tells us about our RAID drives. Does it tell us if we're in Gen 3 or Gen 4 on this controller? RAID count 1,000. Isn't telling us what speed we're connected at, Gen 3 or Gen 4. telling us? Well, this might be something I will play with after hours. I don't think I'm going to have an easy answer to this. You can see these new drives, total bytes written compared to this one. This is obviously the drive that was the previous boot drive we were using. Not seeing any option here selecting Gen 3 or Gen 4. Take a quick look in the device manager just to see if it's in the controller. No. Well, it looks like I'm going to have a little research to do. Just for giggles, we'll do a quick, what is this, Highpoint? SSD7505 Able Gen 4. My G key really is having some issues today. Says it'll do it. Installation was quick and easy. SSDs are 2 times Sabrent Rocket 4 Plus. Nick Poverman sent me a link to a video, but I'm not going to watch that video while I'm live. I will check it out. Well, here's the user manual. We can pull that up real quick. Yeah, I think this is going to take take a little research off camera. We're about 3.5 hours into today's video. I kind of feel like we got the gist of it. So the device itself says it's Gen 4. It should, I would think, auto sense that. There's no jumpers or switches on it that I noticed. So I'm not quite sure what's going on with that. Why that? It's a PCIe Gen 5 slot, so going to Gen 4, again, it should just default to whatever's plugged into it automatically to Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5. So that's a little baffling for me. But I'm just very curious what our read numbers are going to be, because back at the Amazon page, it gave us the performance numbers, or was it at the Highpoint page? Gen 3 or Gen 4 bootable RAID controller for Windows or Linux with speeds up to what? It says 32 terabyte capacity. Again, that's because 8 terabytes is as big as you can go. You can put 4 of those in there for a total of 32. And then what about performance, maximum performance? Let's go to Highpoint SSD7505. Products, got 2. SSD7505. Okay, I think this is where I saw it. It says up to 55,000 megabytes per second. So that makes sense to me, given that we're about halfway there on Gen 3, and Gen 4 should be twice as fast. So I want to see what I have to do to get to that number, but it does say it's got to be cross sync, which I'm not sure that means. I used to know what that means. I just can't remember right now. So I will work on this, and then I'll make a follow-up once I get this figured out. That's sort of the downside of doing the videos live, is that sometimes, on occasion, when I get into some exploration that's, I don't want to say it's unfamiliar territory, but it's been such a long time since I've been in this territory, it's not as familiar to me as it used to be. And furthermore, I've never set up any RAID arrays with Gen 4 drives, because the last time I did this was on Thready back with Gen 3. But I know it can be done. I know the controller is supposed to be able to do it. I just have to take a look. Gotta be something. Nick thinks it's a BIOS setting. Maybe we have to force the PCIe slot into Gen 4 mode. I don't know. I'll play with it offline and I'll let you know what I find. In the meantime, I need to get something to eat. We've been live now for how long? Three hours and 28 minutes. I think it's a good place to wrap it up. We'll be right at the 3.5 hour mark. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today and for joining me on this journey of discovery together as I refresh my memory and learn what changes, what's different Gen 4 drives versus Gen 3 drives with this particular controller. And yeah, I should have videos tomorrow and Friday, and maybe even over the weekend. I got a lot of stuff stacked up, so I'm not sure on the weekend yet. I do it when I can, but definitely I'm planning on being back tomorrow. Should have a repair for you as well. And then Friday, not quite sure if I'm going to get that Wi-Fi 7 router in time from Amazon on Friday. If so, it'll be about the Wi-Fi 7 router. If not, then we may be doing the cube build. Either way, it's going to be a great Friday show. So I hope that you will join me Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Phoenix time, which is currently Pacific time. Same as I started the show today, yesterday, the day before. And I hope you'll join me then. And I should be back tomorrow at the same time, I think. That's what I'm planning on. So be sure and if you don't have notifications turned on, be sure and like and subscribe the video and turn those notifications on so that you can be made aware when new videos go live. And the subscribe button looks like, where did my subscribe button go? Subscribe button looks like that. Click on that. The bell is what the notifications are set for. You have to click the bell, tell it what kind of notifications you want. Go into your Windows account setting, go into your YouTube user account settings to then determine how you want to be notified. Or if you're using a YouTube app on a smart device, go into the app settings and tell it how you want to be notified, and make sure you give the app permission in your smart device to send notifications, because that's always defaulted to no, by just based on people complaining about all the notifications they get from every app they install. So now the default is notifications are off. So like on a phone, you download the YouTube app, then go to the settings on your phone to your installed apps, click on the YouTube app, and then check the boxes you want for notifications. Okay, and thank you guys so much for hanging out and joining me on this fun little adventure. Thank you to everybody who has contributed during today's live stream. So a shout out one more time to these generous folks, and that includes James Prezi, Avery Ramsdorf, Paul M. Did I miss Paul's contribution earlier? Paul contributed $5. Oh yeah, we mentioned that one. And Avery Ramsdorf 2 more times, Alan Lindos, Dave S. Parsons with that $50 super chat, Martin Hogg, Ben Laird, and Peter Laycock, all our friends in Scotland. Thank you guys so much for supporting this channel, keeping me independent and doing things that you're not typically seeing on other YouTube channels. That's what I'm trying to do, some unique content that might, just might, be something you're interested in exploring yourself. Thank you guys once again. I will see you all again very, very soon. Of course, my thanks to Camera Girl for the close-up work and today's thumbnail. Hopefully, I will see you tomorrow, 1 o'clock Pacific time, and of course, Friday, 1 o'clock Pacific time. All videos are live. They are what they are. So it's great if you can join us in the chat and interact with us. You can't do that on TV, and most YouTube channels don't have the level of interaction we have here, because the community is a part of this channel. It's a part of the content. If you choose to be a part of it, all you got to do is be nice. You're all welcome to come on in. And I would love to see this community continue to grow with other like-minded, kind, and supportive individuals all over the world. We're just getting started, folks. I'll see you again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now. Now I need to find an outro. I think I have an old outro here. I haven't run it. Here it is. Okay. See you soon. Bye for now.